One of the biggest criticisms that I see a lot of movie critics here on YouTube using to describe certain films, mainly ones that came out in the late 90s and early 2000s, is that certain elements of the film, like the dialogue or the character designs, can make the film feel dated. This has always confused me because, from my understanding of films and film history, isn't the entire point of films and, to an extent, art as a whole to be dated? People seem to have this attraction towards the idea of timelessness or the idea of something being relevant for as long as possible. But this is really stupid, in my opinion. In 1985, Robert Zemeckis directed a tiny little indie film that you may have heard of called Back to the Future, where the main character wore a puffy orange vest, rode around in a DeLorean, and rocked out to Huey Lewis and the News. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but not too many people would say that Back to the Future is a bad movie despite being incredibly dated. In all actuality, what pieces of art do you know of that are truly timeless? I mean, the film Do the Right Thing is an amazing movie that is still incredibly dated by the fact that all the characters use words and phrases that were only popular during the 80s. Richard Linklater's film Slacker has some amazing dialogue that's based entirely off of how people in Austin, Texas really talked in the late 80s. And anyone that's been to Austin, Texas here recently will tell you that nobody talks like that anymore. Even something as legendary as Shakespeare is dated, and even though the stories and themes of Shakespeare's plays haven't aged that much, the language certainly has. No one talks the way that people in Shakespeare's plays talk anymore. That language is old and forgotten, and that's one of the main reasons why there's textbooks that are solely dedicated to translating those plays. Even the medium itself is dated. Plays aren't nearly as popular as they once were, and if Shakespeare were alive today, he would probably be working in the field of film production. And on top of that, dating your film can actually be a good thing, because in case you've forgotten about a little storytelling element called setting, it's literally defined as the time and place in which your movie takes place. Meaning that if your movie takes place in the late 90s or early 2000s, you're probably going to use language, settings, and motifs that surround those eras. I mean, look at the movie Mean Girls. The entire reason why Mean Girls has such a large cult following is because it's a time capsule of the early 2000s. No one in their right mind would say that Mean Girls is a timeless film. Films can often work better when you let them capture a very specific moment in time. And there are a lot of things that I think that people should prioritize and perfect when writing a screenplay or any narrative for that matter. But making your product seem timeless isn't one of them.